Hello, everybody, and we welcome you to our next edition of Sooner All Access. And we're going to head to Oklahoma City. We're going to talk a little bit about men's soccer today. And joining us is Mid-America Christian's new head coach, but not a old name, so to say, a new name, so to say. He's an old veteran here in the Sooner. Aaron Hoxie joins us. And Aaron, thanks so much for joining us. And first off, coming to Mid-America this year, taken over a program that has really kind of started to make an upswing on the men's soccer side. Talk a little bit about how that transition's gone for you.
Sure. Jim, well, thank you. Appreciate you for having me on. It's always a pleasure. Anything I can do for the conference, help promote, what we're all about, our values as a conference, and of course our institution and program, readily available and love to do that. So for us, as a family, it's been a bit more difficult than I think, you would obviously want to have drawn up, but God has worked in our lives to help us find a home, find schools for the kids, get the kids involved in clubs and create a friend group, and that kind of thing. It has been tough sledding on a personal level because we're still unsettled, but we are also thankful for the blessings of being able to stay at my parents' house and some of the friends that my kids have been able to connect with. So that has been tough, but also rewarding to see that for the kids as well. In terms of the team, I was working hybrid or 3 days back in McPherson and then 3 days here in Oklahoma City ever since February. And so for me, I was able to get the sort of the footprint of what we wanted into August, but at the same time, honoring the traditions of the players who I knew were graduating, their legacies, and also the players whom I knew were moving on to Division I institutions and being able to kind of blend everything. And so for me, it was, probably about end of March, beginning of April, where I was doing a training session where I was like, okay, now they're starting to view me as coach. And they're starting to really kind of understand what I'm all about and those kinds of things. And of course, through the summer, different interviews, Zoom sessions, communicating with the players off and on, building those ideals, it made hitting the ground in August seamless. So from a professional perspective, work perspective, it's been absolutely fantastic. Everything I could have asked for. The boys have been wonderful. Institution has been great, top class.
This is a team too that last year, had an unbelievable season, and there's still a great core group of leaders that are returning to this year, and you guys are already off to a pretty good start. Talk a little bit about getting those returners and that core group of leaders buying in and kind of being the leaders, so to say, for you guys to keep that tradition and to really try and back up what you all did last year into this year.
Yeah, good. It's 13 seniors basically. And it's if you look through, it's a who's who of MACU soccer in terms of addressing the historical part of what you referenced. Those boys are obviously the talent. The new players are talented as well, but you really rely heavily this year on those kids. And I think the important thing to have success with those players was getting Coach James on board with me, getting Coach James on board with the ideas. And that didn't take very long. Coach James, in case you didn't know, got promoted to associate head coach. Mm-hmm. He's been in the program 6+ years, legend of the SAC in terms of playing over at Southwest Christian. He's got a ton of awards in terms of conference championships here as a coach. So getting him on board was important. Didn't take long, couple of weeks of us working together. And then when I was gone in February and March, those 3 or 4 days, he was able to communicate with the older players or the returning players because he has established relationships. And so I feel like our personal and our professional relationship was the number one thing to getting those boys on board. And it was great. And then obviously, as you mentioned before, had a great result versus Bethel, who I feel Bethel's going to be, they're going to have something to say in that final weekend. They're really good. And then, of course, taking it to Grace. And the important thing I'll notice about Grace is we were a man down for 20 minutes.
Right.
Dubious card, whatever circumstance, it didn't really matter to me. we had to grind out a result. And those boys, the returning players, were the key factors in that. So the personality, the identity of who we are really started in that February with coach, getting him on board and working through these new guys.
And a couple of guys that had big weeks for you. In fact, they were our conference players of the week this week. Enzo on the offensive side, and Sebastian. And Sebastian, in my mind, he just steps on the field and he makes an immediate impact, especially for you guys on that back line.
Yep. Yeah. What a dude, right? We'll speak to Sabas a little bit. The best thing about Sebastian was he was the easiest to convince about what we were doing. There was no conversation needed. It was like, hey, this is what I want. And he's like, okay, coach, I'm doing it. And, I think the word that Coach James uses time and time again to describe Sebastian is class, just class. And then with Enzo, so Enzo actually, halftime of that Bethel game, we were trying to get a little bit more going forward. We said, hey, I know he's played the 9 before. He's trained with us a little bit. Let's try him out. Let's try him. We got to get numbers higher up, which means we need the ball up there. And so he's actually playing out a position for us this week. And then this Friday, without giving too much away, we'll put him up there and see how he does again. And to his credit, we're asking him to do something that's not specifically what his strength is. And it's been loads of conversations with him. It's been not that we're trying to convince him of doing it because he's on board, especially because he's seeing immediate results, but just reassuring him, hey, this is what's best for the team. And to his credit, he's taken it and he's running with it.
The non-conference schedule, Bethel, Grace, and then Benedictine. Then you talk about Williams Baptist and then Ottawa out of Kansas. I mean, your non-con is a who's who of some of the best teams in the Midwest.
Yep. And not to forget about Oklahoma Wesleyan in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
They're no joke either. They beat Mo Valley last night 2-0 at home. So, one of the things that was one of the things that I inherited from Coach Neal. But at the same time, we added Oklahoma Wesleyan in the end. We kind of knew what we were going to get into, Coach James and I. And we just said, listen, hey, going into that recruiting cycle, we've got these names, but we need to get some depth. Because one of the things from last year, sitting on the opposite sideline when building a scouting report against MACU was, hey, we got to get them into their bench because there wasn't a ton of squad depth. And by the time we got them in October, several key players were injured. They still won games because they're absolute quality, those boys in the field. But that was an area we needed to address. And so we felt with the rigors of the schedule, having that depth so we could squad rotate, we could overcome injuries is going to be very important for us. And we really absolutely love our depth.
And then you talk about the Sooner, and I think we've got some of the best soccer in the country. I know sometimes, when the polls come out and, the national tournament's announced, we don't see that, but it's a meat grinder weekend in, weekend out in the Sooner because we're top to bottom as good as any conference in America.
100%. 100% agree with you. And we got John Brown receiving votes in this morning's poll. So they went to number one, was a man down for like 60 some minutes and got a nice result on the road. So it's one of those situations where it's like you kind of wish if our goal as an institution conference was to get as many teams in the national top 25 as we could, then you don't want you need 5 or 6 teams that you could just pound on and so you can have winning records. But we're not that way. There is no easy game in October. Every single game is quality. I think the coaches, even though we had I think it was 7 coaches turned over, they're all quality. The coaches that got brought in, all great human beings, great to work with. I've enjoyed my interactions with them. And through social media posts, you can see, man, okay, this kid's quality, this kid's quality. And our bottom teams historically have gotten better over the past 2 or 3 years. And so it's a daunting task to try to repeat for sure. We know that, and we are not taking it for granted.
And Coach, we talk about Mid-American Christian and just the overall athletic department. And you mentioned a little bit ago, just, the transition and all that. but being able to land at a place that is so well established, not only just on the field, but in the classroom, also with how everybody, it's the faith based, it's,
Hmm.
how we
Yep.
want to do things. That has to be so incredible for you and your family to be able to go in and be a part of a university that beliefs are right in line with what you, your family, and what you want to instill in the guys on the pitch.
Yeah. Yeah. Spot on, Jim. I think you're absolutely, you hit the nail on the head. Yeah, I said that correct. For me, I always told my wife during my time at Central, we loved our time at Central. Great family friends. It's considered home. I still got deep, meaningful relationships with the people there. And of course, my old team, my son, I'm now a dad. He got himself healthy and he's playing. He went back for his 5th year, so I'll be watching my kid play tonight if he gets in the team. So for me, I told her, I said, hey, there's only 2 schools in the nation that I would leave for. And Mid-America was one of them. I want to stay in the NAI because I believe in the NAI's core values. I love the Sooner Athletic. I'm very familiar with the Sooner Athletic. I think the leadership is spot on. And then more to MACU, I love working with Marcus. Marcus and I have a great relationship, professional as well as personal. The coaches here, I'm starting to get to know. Faculty and staff, I'm starting to get to know. But just everything about what I believe in my life and what God has said, hey, this is your life mission, is here. And obviously the personal side of the reasons, in terms of the other factors of my job, also are big benefits. And you can see that across our athletics department as a whole. We won the Commissioner's Cup last year by the thinnest of margins, but yet we won it, which just shows you the quality of the coaches, the players, the institution, the things that we stand for, mission first, academic second, and then we want to win games. That's right out of our president's mouth. And so that's what I believe.
Awesome. Well, Coach, I appreciate the time. It's always great to chat with you. I know me and you talk about different things, especially the reserve tournament that we're going to have once again this year, which we're all excited about to give, those young men that may not be playing, on the varsity side, it's giving them an opportunity too to be able to compete for a championship, so to say.
Yep. No, I agree with you. October 9, 10, and 11. This year we have 8 teams in our tournament. We invited 2 other local teams into it so we could have an 8-team tournament. But last year, man, we were down there, or up there, I guess, in Wichita. And you could just see, while there was only 4 teams, you could see the camaraderie of the conference. The other teams that played the morning game stuck around and watched the second game, got there a little early to watch. We had, back in time at Central, we had the first team guys serving, running ball boys, cleaning, all those kinds of things. And it was a total conference event. And, when USAO won the final versus MACU, I think it was a 2-1 game, or it might have been 3-2, but it was a really close game. You could the celebration was pure. It was energetic. It was their championship game. And those boys celebrated. They got great social media content, held the trophy high. It was a great moment for, Jimmy and his boys down at USL, but more importantly, a great moment for the Sooner. And we had the same 4 teams plus 2 other teams joining us from the conference. And we had 2 outside teams say, hey, we heard about it. We thought, can we be a part of that? Because our conference doesn't have that. And so that's kind of started the ball rolling a little bit. And I'm toying future. I got to talk to the coaches, but we're talking about a reserve team league, a regular season league, sort of an I-35 Cup, where we're drawing in these other teams and kind of creating a schedule for them and that kind of thing. That's in the future, but we're toying with it.
No, that'll be awesome. So, well, I appreciate the time. I know it's busy for you, but it's always great to talk to you, and going to be excited to see what MACU does throughout the year and see what can happen down in Oklahoma City. But thanks for the time. I appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you. Take care.
Aaron Hoxie, the head coach down at Mid-America Christian on the men's soccer side, joins us. Once again, this is our weekly feature, Sooner All-Acces, and we'll be back right here next Thursday morning at 11 o'clock.